We're going to go ahead and call the meeting of the Bloomington City Council to order. If we could please stand for the Pledge and Allegiance, and please remain standing for a moment of silence. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Alderman Mathey.
Here.
Alderman Sage.
Here.
Alderman Balamoy.
Here.
Alderman Burgess.
Here.
Alderman Painter.
Here.
Alderman Schmidt. Here. Alderman Black.
Here.
Alderman Hallman.
Here.
Alderman Bray.
Here.
Mayor Renner.
Here. Thank you very much. We're actually going to start with recognitions and appointments. And we have Colleen Winterland. Colleen, are you here? And we want to present this. We've got a couple of things here. In spite of budget cuts, look at this. Is this not impressive or what? And then I've also got a plaque of recognition from the city of Bloomington. And this first one, IPSI, Illinois Public Service Institute, and that's the Illinois chapter and Chicago Metro chapter. This is to certify that Colleen Winterland has successfully completed the third-year program IPSI Partners, American Public Works Association, also the Chicago Metro chapter, American Public Works Association, the Illinois chapter. IPSI sponsors include Southern Illinois University, Edwardsville, Northern Illinois University, Illinois Municipal League, Illinois Arborist Association, Illinois Public Works Mutual Aid Network, Illinois section, American Waterworks Association, Illinois City County Management Association, Illinois Assistant Managers Association, the October 6th, 2017. Congratulations. We're very honored. Thank you. But we're not going to stop there.
And she's got family here.
And
they're trying to hide the badge.
Oh, you're trying to hide. Oh, we have family. No, come on, family. Family. No. We don't want to hide. Come on up right behind us. This is your city hall. This is please, come on. Walk with us. Talk with us. Come on. Sister, oh man, of course. We are family. There we go. Awesome. Now this one's a little longer. And this is recognition of Colleen Winterland, whereas the city of Bloomington is proud of its employees and their accomplishments and wishes to recognize those who excel in their positions. Whereas the Public Works Department of the city of Bloomington is dedicated to its values of stewardship, customer service, professionalism, integrity, trust, openness to change, leadership, attitude, and teamwork. Whereas Colleen Winterland has worked for the city of Bloomington since 2006 and has been promoted to higher levels of leadership many times. And whereas Colleen serves as the superintendent of streets and sewers in the Public Works Department and is an exemplary employee. And whereas Colleen has completed the Illinois Public Works Service Institute, a 3-year nationally recognized leadership program through the American Public Works Association. And whereas the skills Colleen has learned through the leadership program has benefited and will continue to benefit city employees and citizens alike. Now, therefore, I, Terry Renner, Mayor of the City of Bloomington, do hereby present the recognition of achievement to Colleen Winterland. Thank you and congratulations.
Thank you.
Very well deserved. Oh, we got this. Thanks so much.
When it's done, call Colleen.
An editorial comment.
Trust me.
We have Mark Mulick to the Planning Commission. Mark, are you in the audience? Would you, again, stand and be recognized? Thank you so much for your willingness to serve. We very much appreciate your willingness. Thanks, Mark. And now we have appointment of the following individuals to the Public Safety and Community Relations Commission Board. If you are here in the audience, would you please stand and remain standing? This is a so-called Citizens Police Review Board, and that is William Bennett, Robert Vasquez, Serena Fish, Jan Lancaster, Sally Rudolph, I know I've seen her, Arthur Taylor, and Jeff Woodward. Thank you so much. Thank you for your willingness to serve and to serve our community and the awesome task that you have. And this is really great. It looks like we've got all 7 of you in the audience. Thank you. Next, we move to public comment, and we have up to 3 minutes to say whatever you'd like on any topic. It does not have to be related to what's on the agenda. And I just want to remind everybody that we do have a Mayor's Open House, and a Mayor's Open House where it's one-on-one. You can sign up. They're actually lasting now more than an hour, but anytime from 4:30 to 5:30. If you have questions or concerns, you can just come on into my office every Friday before a regular Monday City Council meeting. And if you've got issues or concerns, we can try to sometimes solve those on the spot. Sometimes if you want information, unless there's some bizarre reason why we can't get it, sometimes we can get it to you immediately. If not, we can get it to you in very short order. So if you immediately want answers or reactions, that's the way to go. In public comment, we have a situation where you basically can state your opinion, and we do not engage in dialogue. We're going to start out with, I'm going to read them in in threes, not thirds, threes, because we have enough time to accommodate everybody, but we're kind of tight. I believe there are just about 10, and we have 30 minutes. So we're going to start with Judy Stearns, then Donna Bolin, and Scott Steimerling. Judy Stearns first, Donna Bolin, Scott Steimerling. Okay?
Good evening. I'd like to add on a little bit of what Angie Scott so eloquently said last comment. Some of you, maybe you've heard that they asked Willie Sutton, the bank robber, why do you rob banks? And he said, that's where the money is. I'd like to ask all of you, why do you get money from the poorest, most vulnerable, and least powerful among us in the form of punitive water rates that are taking the last bit of discretionary income from those who can absolutely least afford it? But that won't be any of you. That won't be any of you. We have here, lawyers, professional State Farm, business owners, etc. But do you ever really think about someone who is struggling to buy milk for their children? They wouldn't dream of buying tickets to the BCPA, Mrs. Burgess. They wouldn't even dream of that. They can't even necessarily get the most essential. And here you come in the state with the highest property taxes in all of the other states, and you impose the most punitive, confiscatory water rates. Now, this is something that no one can do without. Oh, I know it's sewer, but, sewer and water are joined, forever joined, and have to both be paid. So I wish that you would think, in fact, what you should do is you should think about repealing those water rates. You actually should. Even Chicago just repealed the Preckwinkle's soda tax because it was so oppressive and just so wrong to take more and more and more until people just leave. They can't afford it anymore. I grew up here. Bloomington's one of Bloomington's biggest assets. I don't know how many of you grew up here. I go back 4 generations. Was its affordability. Wonderful small town and so affordable. You are now becoming a Chicago suburb without Chicago. The same kind of rates and taxes and fees. You doubled landlord fees. Where do you think that goes? That goes to tenants. You doubled them. You didn't even tell the landlords. You didn't go up 10%. You didn't go up 5%. You didn't ask anyone. You just had at it. And finally, I'd like to comment real briefly, Mayor Renner, on your comments last council meeting. It's sad that you have to condemn the very lawsuit that helped expose the waste and fraud of $1 million plus. The successful lawsuit that got the information about the concessions that none of you were curious enough or had the energy or the whatever to actually try to find out, even though it was mentioned many, many times in this very room. And finally, Mayor Renner, my favorite, you said, that you're the mayor, so you have to take the heat. You mentioned acrimony. You have to take the heat, and somebody said, if you can't take the heat, get out of the kitchen. And then you said that wasn't a politician, or no one in public office probably would say it, or shouldn't say it, or something. Of course, most of us know that was Harry S. Truman, who probably took more heat than anyone that's ever been in this room. So just thought that was kind of interesting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Donna Bolin, Scott Steimerling, and Aaron.
I'm Donna Bolin. I live in Ward 2. I'm here to talk about the procedures on elected official reimbursement. Basically, I'm okay with most of the stuff that's in there, but I would like some clarity on parentheses D, number 2, meals. I would like to have a subcategory, parentheses 4, which would begin, unless other criteria are met, meals with others. It should be a separate subcategory. Now I'm going to get into kind of serious stuff. I'd like to read City Code, Chapter 2, Article 2, regarding powers of council. The powers of City Council shall be purely legislative, and the council shall approve the payment of all expenditures. And City Code, Chapter 2, Article 2, Section 42, regards the mayor. The mayor shall preside at all meetings of the council and all ceremonial occasions. The proposed ordinance, whereas number 3, if you have it in front of you, let's see, says public resources should only be used when there is substantial benefit to the city of Bloomington. And then Article or Section 86D in parentheses, where it's allowable expenses, is defined as an activity that will serve as a benefit to the city as a body and, at the same time, is directly related to the function of government. And I would like to address subsection E, the prohibited expenses. E, number 3, I believe it should read personal items or gifts and end at that point. There is no reason, in my opinion, that an individual elected official should purchase a gift. The council budgets or approves the budget, the manager can purchase, and then the elected official would do the presentation. Parentheses E, number 4, can refer back to parentheses D, number 8, community luncheons and dinners. Parentheses E, 8, any fee or donation for a non-for-profit should be prohibited. Parentheses E, number 9, family expenses included for travel. Again, go back to the city code as far as purely legislative and ceremonial. There are no circumstances where a family should be, where taxpayer money should be used for family travel. Refer to the definition of what's allowable as an expense, and reimbursement of any expenditures of a type other than those described above require approval of the City Council. I think it needs to be consistent with other ordinances. I don't know of any ordinance that puts exceptions in the ordinance. Liquor license or liquor has to come for an exception to the council for approval. And I believe zoning also has to come through the Zoning Board of Appeals. So any variance to what's allowed needs to be brought to the council.
Time is
Thank
up.
you.
Thank you, Don. Scott Steimerling, Aaron, and then Doug Reuter.
Scott Steimerling, Ward 5. I have some concerns regarding the way the City operates as far as on 7F. It appears that the city almost continues to stay with the same billing service for emergency services. But I would suggest that you bid all these contracts out. It is not free money, regardless of what you may think. It's the people have paid those taxes, have gone out and earned that money. Regarding the P card, I would suggest that, I don't know how many P cards are out there, but it is absolutely unforgivable when you stop and think, here are people struggling from one day to the next, and then the city goes out and has these P card purchases. You know, I don't know why, you know, the city puts up with it. And, you know, hard telling how many are out there. I guess maybe you don't keep track of that. Is that right? So and plus the fireworks, you could take that and put that right in the cotton picking streets. I wonder if Chief Hefner's officers are really concerned when they stop somebody and write them a traffic ticket. I don't think so. Mr. Hales is very concerned that there are people who would be upset, and I really don't care. Thank you.
Okay, next we go to Aaron, Doug Rudder, and Lindley Utze. And Aaron, can we keep it PG-13?
Yeah, we can do that.
Oh, okay, cool. Thanks.
Greetings, space people, universal lovers. So the crazy, cranky, racist blog lady likes to complain recently about your lovely trip to Japan. And maybe you know, the way you went about the card thing, whatever, it's not really a big deal because the money's there. The same thing with your cheeseburger addiction, because obviously they just want you to buy their Krabby Patties. And, you know, none of us want their Krabby Patties. But you know, when I was a little kid, we got a Mitsubishi factory here in town. And one of the coolest things that came from that Mitsubishi factory was an abundance of Japanese people in this community. And it is still today one of the best things that has happened to me because of this town and its global influence on me. I still am in communication with my friend Shimizu Minako. And you know, when they just go on and complain, it's just been nonstop. Japan, Japan, Japan. And they're just racist. That's all there is, man. Y'all got to stop listening to them. They got this crazy lady coming up here bashing her for going to see Blue's Clues and whatever. I mean, I think you should take your kid to see Willie Nelson or something. But, you know, where does this end? I mean, how much more can you guys just, like, come up with, oh, my God, these crazy racist blog people, like swamp critters that won't go away. Bye.
Okay. Doug Reuter and Lee Utze, and, sorry, I got to get my glasses, Leon Cabe.
Members of the council, thank you for the opportunity to speak to you. My name is Doug Rudder. I'm the new executive director at Luther Oaks Retirement Community. Some of you may know Luther Oaks this week will celebrate our 10th year of operations in Bloomington. I'd like to start by welcoming any of you that'd like to come out and visit. We serve a lovely lunch, and I'd be happy to invite any of you to come out and share that with me and our residents. I'm here today to advocate for the completion of the park space located on Lutz Road next to our campus. Wittenberg Woods Park is a 15-year promise that remains yet to be fulfilled for the people of our neighborhood. This green space would provide a place to enjoy the outdoors for our residents, many of whom don't have any independent access to park space. In fact, the nearest green space for our residents requires a cross Veterans Parkway for people to get access to it. And while my primary concern, of course, is for the 146 residents that we have in our facility, I recognize that Wittenberg Woods would benefit all the families of our neighborhood. In fact, in addition to the premium living that we offer our residents, the one thing that we're committed to is providing a vibrant lifestyle
And one of the key aspects of Vibrant Lifestyle is integration into the wider community. And in many ways, we take our residents through trips to visit events in the community, and in a lot of ways, we bring the community into our campus for events for the residents. But this space would provide an opportunity where the children of the families of Wittenberg Woods could interact with the seniors who live in our community, creating that intergenerational integration that is essential for the vibrant living that we desire for our seniors. And so I ask you to please consider the immediate completion of this park project. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Lee Utzi, Leon, I'm not sure if I pronounced that right, Cabe, and then Angela Scott.
Hi, okay, thank you. So many of you know me. I'm Lee Utzi. I own Magic Bus Shuttles. I work in the downtown, and I'm here always about things in the downtown. And last time I talked to you was about the signs that were downtown, and now I understand that you are looking at an ordinance to codify the signs, and I say terrific. I'm not complaining. Matter of fact, I'd like to see you go just a little bit further. I'd like to help you. We used to have meetings with the city, the owners of vehicle for hire. That's how we got Chapter 40. We talked to them and said, this would work, this won't work, this is what we see. The police were there, the city legal was there, the city clerk was there, everybody was there. We don't have those anymore, so here I am. I'm here to tell you that I think it's a great idea that in 7H, you want to eliminate truck traffic on the 500 block of North Main. Okay, they took the buses off of North Main, truck traffic, weight classification, because they said it was unsafe. Okay, what they did though is they left a police car, a manned police car, in the left-hand lane at the corner of Main and Mulberry to allow for Bob's Blue Night and Bob's Blue Night only to be able to use Main Street. 10 buses. Now they say they wanted this blocked off because a cop got hit by a bus. Truth in advertising, I think he was standing in the street and a vehicle was backing, but okay. So I'd love to see this get passed. Here's the problem. You take away Bob's ability to use Main Street, which I think you should. The savings will be marvelous. He's going to have to go left. Okay, I don't know if you can visualize this block, the 100 block of West Mulberry, but if you go left, then you come to Mulberry and Center. Now, the police plan is that all the vehicle for hire buses are down there and that all the pedestrians cross there. So if Bob's goes left, all 10 of his buses, 8 of them are full size, then they got to turn left and that's where our people are coming. I would like to please ask you to consider making Mulberry no truck traffic as well. So there's a police car that is parked for the express purpose of stopping all traffic from coming down Center where our buses are parked so that people don't get hit. So why would you send buses to the left so that they can cross where our people are? But I'm actually not complaining today. I'm really glad to see that this has taken place, and and I wanted to say in conclusion too that I like Mr. Mayor's new open house meeting one-on-one. I thought was a huge improvement than sitting around the table. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Leon? And then Angela.
Greetings from Earthlings in Bloomington, Illinois. Yeah, I'm just confounded as to why the P card is being used excessively. I'd like to say that I think elected officials do not even need a P card. There's no reason to have an elected official use a P card. City manager can do his job to make sure all the food is ordered, or flowers. There's no need for a city elected official to have a P card. And what came out in the news, of course, is the $28 being spent, I would call illegally, unofficially, but paid back by $30. It makes no sense. Also asked Alderman Black if he was in his presence when that was being used, could have been, hey, Mr. Mayor, you sure that's right to use that card? I think it's just going to impede the investigation by state police. This city is being plagued with bad news on leadership. Just appalling that can't get out of the rut. Television stations, radio stations, newspapers, never seen this plague before. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Angela Scott.
I think it's shameful that you find it funny when someone comes up here and calls your citizens racist and crazy. And I believe he was referring to me. So it's not funny, it's sad when the council finds that type of behavior humorous. This is, again, some of you heard it, some of you missed it. My Declaration of Independence, Part 2, based on the United States Declaration of Independence. I hold these truths in my spirit. All humans are created equal. We are endowed by our Creator with the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. These rights are non-transferable, and you cannot take them away. Government does not create these rights. To secure, not create these rights, governments are instituted among us, and the powers of this government comes from those they serve. Who do you serve? When any form of government becomes destructive by taking away any individual's rights, it is necessary to alter or abolish it and to institute a new government. The foundation of this new government is to ensure our right to safety and freedom. That's your job. That's it. It is not without forethought that governments long established should be changed, nor for light or transient causes. However, experience has shown that I am more likely to suffer when the malicious actions of government are tolerable. It was apathy by German citizens that allowed the suffering and death during the Jewish Holocaust. It was apathy by Americans that allowed slavery to continue for generations. Acrimony does not kill and imprison people. Apathy does. When a long list of abuses and wrongful infringements designed to reduce individuals' rights occurs, it is our right and our duty to abolish those responsible for such government and to provide new guards for our future security. Council members, who do you serve? This is a call to action. The City of Bloomington government no longer serves the vast majority of the people who have entrusted them with this great responsibility. It is now necessary that we implement a plan to extinguish the power of individuals that create oppression and denial of basic rights to the majority in order to serve an elite group of individuals who seek only to benefit themselves by removing other freedoms and the ability to pursue happiness by others. I am a free woman. I will pursue at all costs the abolition of a government that oppresses any community. I will hold responsible anyone who attempts to steal my freedom or my property as a means to oppress me, my family, or my community. I will no longer support this government that enslaves individuals while speaking of freedom.
Thank you. Okay, we move right along to our consent agenda. Are there any items that any member of the City Council would like to have removed from the consent agenda? Okay. I would like to remove 7H, as in Herman. Anyone else want to remove anything? Is there a motion to approve then the consent agenda as presented with the exception of item 7H?
So moved.
Moved by Alderwoman H. Howman, second by Alderwoman Bray. And Madam Clerk, would you call the roll? Or we can just do that. Okay, sorry.
Oh.
Okay. We are 9-0. There are no nays to announce, Madam Clerk. I actually just pulled item 7H to ask a couple of questions. If Officer and our Chief Bay could come forward. Just to clarify for the audience and for the record, Mr. Yutzi had asked a couple of questions on the changes that are coming forward under Chapter 29 pertaining to the bus locations downtown, and he had suggested that there were, I guess, Bob's Blue Light, was given some special attention here. I know. Can you clarify for us the record here?
That's inaccurate.
Okay. Yeah. If you could clarify what.
So I will tell you, I don't make it down to the downtown every night. I was downtown, I think at the end of July, and the only bus I saw driving on Main Street was Mr. Yutzi. So, and I saw that personally myself on two different times within the 30 minutes I was downtown. I did speak with the sergeant who's in charge of the detail to inquire about how Bob's Blue Night accesses the parking lot. And what he told me, and I would have to follow up again to verify, is they come in from the north on Center Street and go east on Mulberry and pull into the parking lot. They do not turn left from Main Street onto Mulberry.
Okay.
And I was just pulling up video from last Saturday to try to see if that was occurring, but I haven't gotten to it, so
okay.
That would be incorrect.
Okay. Are there any other questions of the chief? Okay. Thank you, Chief.
Yes.
I appreciate you clarifying the record for us. Is there a motion then on this item? Approval or disapproval?
Approve as presented.
Moved by Alderman Black to approve. Is there a second? Second by Alderman Miller-Wamway. At this point, if we'll go ahead and vote on this as presented. Okay. The motion passes 9-0. There are no nays to announce, Madam Clerk. Okay. We move right along to our regular agenda, and that's under 8A, and that's consideration of a motor fuel tax resolution for an additional $900,000 for intersection designs, plans, construction, right-of-way, utility relocation, construction, and intersection Towanda Barnes Road and Island Grove Road. And there will be a brief presentation. We have 5 minutes and a council discussion of 10. So this is a fairly tight timetable. You have to recuse yourself on this one. Okay. Alderwoman Burgess has to recuse herself on this. Okay. Thank you. And we'll let you know when we're done.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. We will make this brief. This is an intersection you have seen before. We brought to you September 26th, 2016. There were some preliminary discussions and an intergovernmental agreement that we talked about. And whenever we were trying to solve what is considered to be the worst crash rate intersection for McLean County. What they were looking to do is a partnership. So we ended up, it's a partnership.
If we could just clarify, we're not talking about the worst anywhere in the city of Bloomington.
Thank you.
Just outside of Bloomington and normal
that is correct.
In areas that are fairly lightly populated.
Very correct. That is true.
Thank you.
And I'll even clarify this would not be within the city of Bloomington's top 10 crash rate intersections. So that's also important to know for you. But for the county outside of the city of Bloomington, that is correct. For them, it would be their worst. In this case, a couple things that is important to note. When we first discussed this with you in 2016, that was before we had to comply with a lot of the different motor fuel tax intersection design study requirements. We were hoping to be able to make this intersection a lot easier to be able to solve some of the traffic concerns that we were seeing. Some of the issues that we were seeing were southbound right turn. There was a lot of backup from that movement. There were some changes from the September 2016 until now. It's good for you as a council to know about. Unit 5, we had done some counts, some traffic counts modified after Unit 5 had changed some of their start times. That actually had a significant impact on the east leg of the intersection and negatively impacted that. So you have State Farm traffic in the mornings headed southbound making a right. You also have 2 elementary schools east of this intersection. It also caused problems. And so there's all of that playing together. When you look at this intersection, we're looking, because of the intergovernmental agreement, at cost splits of 50-50. 2 of the legs are the city of Bloomington, 2 of the legs of the county. Right now, we're bringing to you an update, as we promised to you a year ago, with updated cost information for your additional consideration. To this point, design work has been done. No construction work has been bid, but we're coming back to you for that next stage of approval and discussion. When we look at this intersection again, it really got a lot larger from the standpoint originally. The county and the city were looking at only a southbound right lane. When additional traffic data was taken, that expanded that east leg to additional construction, which increased the cost substantially. That's where a lot of this conversation. I remember last time I was before you, I went back and watched the YouTube video. We were hesitant to really give a cost estimate because at the time it hadn't been completed. So this is what we're bringing back to you at this point. There has been quite an increase in the traffic at this intersection, which has caused some of the metrics that are causing issues for citizens who are traveling through this, both City of Bloomington and McLean County residents traveling through this intersection. There has been significant crashes at this intersection, 36 from 2012 to 2017. There was one unfortunate fatality in 2014 that did occur. The majority of the crashes are on Towanda Barnes during the morning peak hour, and then in the east leg in the afternoon along Ireland Grove. And so again, there are more crashes here than many of the other intersections along that route. So with that, we'll keep this very simple, but I did want to point out one thing. A couple questions that we had in talking about this. Why so large? Why do you have to do so much to it to fix the problem? A lot of that comes down to use of motor fuel tax funds. Anytime a community uses MFT dollars, that changes the game. You go from being able to implement the simpler options to having to do the full 20-year plan. And so that's what changed quite a bit. We had looked at earlier with the county. Again, they're the lead agency, but it's a strong partnership. We appreciate that. And here tonight, I'd also like to point out from the county, we have Chairman John McIntyre here with us. He is in the back, available for any questions. We also have the Administrative Services Director, Eric Schmidt, and the County Engineer, Jerry Stokes, here this evening as well in the front row. They can't hide in the front row, so they're right there. So there's any questions that you have for them, they would also be available for questions and comment. So with that being said, we'd take any questions that you have.
Questions of Mr. Karch. Milwaukee.
Thank you, Jim. One question I have for you, and I know I've spoken to you about it a number of times, is how is this going to impact the intersection of Ireland Grove and Stride Drive?
Yes.
'Cause I know I've received a number of concerns about that.
Alderman Malamboy and I have talked extensively. There are different residents who use that Stride and Ireland Grove intersection and have some concerns. One of the potential benefits of this is whenever you talk about queue links and how people queue at the intersections, by having more fluid movement, you try to get more of the traffic clustered together. They're basic traffic engineering concepts. But it still is going to be, even with this improvement, as we had discussed, this isn't going to solve any of the traffic issues at Stride and Ireland Grove. But the hope is with additional queuing, it allows for gaps for cars to be able to make that left or right turn.
Is it going to make it worse?
No, it should not make it worse, but I always hesitate to say it won't solve the issues. When you're done, it'll provide for some additional gapping, but it won't solve the issues of the concerns with speed along Ireland Grove. The site visibility is just fine. It's that perception and that desire to make sure you turn out safely.
Thank you. Alderman Black.
Thank you.
And then Schmidt.
Thank you. And thank you, Jim. I know you've talked about this at length, and I appreciate you getting me the minutes to the Transportation Committee from the county where I used to serve. So Eric and Jared, good to see you guys again. And so I remember my time on the county board and how the county thinks about some of these transportation issues. And when this came up a few months back, I was kind of on the fence about it because this doesn't really fit with the nature of our comprehensive plan in that we are expanding and putting resources in an area that is not in our historic core. But after the conversation, we got some press out of it. There was no cost estimates at that point in time like we discussed. But I've heard just a lot of feedback of people who are not thrilled with us spending money in this way. People will list off a number of projects that, in their perspective, is of a higher priority than to alleviate traffic concerns during peak hours. So I understand, we want to keep things safe and we have limited availability of funds. And so one of the things that I try to do when we're prioritizing is take the public feedback. What have we already done? How have we looked at some of these projects? And to me, I'd rather see some of that 700,000 that we've already budgeted and potentially up to 900,000 go towards multiple projects that we could do throughout our community that make a big impact. So I understand where we're at. I get that the county wants to alleviate their safety concerns. I'm going to be voting no on this just because I think we can spend our money in a little bit better of an approach.
Alderwoman Schmidt.
Like Alderman Black, I've been receiving a lot of negative feedback on this, and you and I have had an email exchange about a couple of questions I had, one being what alternates may have been looked at that had less financial impact, and also why our Transportation Commission hasn't been involved in this, and I realize it's the timeline, and this has a long history, and the commission is just getting up and running. But I'm very much inclined to make a motion actually to send this back to our own Transportation Commission. I think that might have a couple of different benefits in providing them with something that's really substantial, that has an awful lot of layers to it. And not that you haven't done your diligence in public feedback, but I'd be very interested in their look at what other alternatives there are. And if I could make that motion, if it died, I am not.
Are there any?
I am not.
I would second it.
There's no objection to the two of you who have asked to speak.
Well, I'm happy to sit back until people have spoken.
Okay, but go ahead. It sounds like you're going to get a second, and they don't have a problem.
Okay, well then I'll make a motion that we send this back to our Transportation Commission.
And
for
second by
feedback.
Alderman Mathey. Okay. And anything else?
No.
Okay. Alderwoman Painter and Mathey.
Hi, Jim. Could you please explain to me and to the public what things we can spend motor fuel tax money on? I mean, for example, can we use it to repave our roads?
Yeah, very good question. Traditionally, the city of Bloomington has utilized motor fuel tax for our larger infrastructure jobs. It's been a model the city has used for many years. Issues like our various Hamilton Road phases, the Fox Creek Road bridge and pavement. That's traffic signals, larger traffic signals. But Alderman Painter, you are correct. There's actually a lot of things that the city can use motor fuel tax funds on. For example, the past couple years, we've used $500,000 of that to fund our street lighting. Even things like that can be used, and so that's where funds are allocated. So the past couple of years, even $500,000 can go toward that. So it's in state code of what you can utilize motor fuel tax funds for. But there's quite a bit of funds. Even a lot of smaller communities utilize those.
So can we use it to repave our roads in the city?
Yes, that actually is one of the alternatives that is possible with this. Motor fuel tax funds can be very restrictive. One of the things we've talked with the county about is, do you look at trying to do just something smaller with this and not use motor fuel tax dollars? And maybe that's a possibility that could be discussed in the Transportation Commission, and that's something to consider.
Thank you.
Alderman Mathey.
Jim, and this is probably difficult for you to answer, but how many of the crashes were caused by people who were speeding on that road? Because, well, I can stop there for a second. Do you have any idea?
No.
Okay. I mean, I'm asking because I was driving down Tawana Barnes last week, and I got passed by people who were going so fast I felt like I was stopped. It feels like this is one of those cases where we have over-engineered a road to the point where we've created a racetrack. The lights are timed. You don't have to stop. I mean, the majority, you can go from Towanda to Downs with almost not stopping at all, and I wonder if this is an overreaction and we could just look at, is it appropriate to look at the speeds people are traveling? Are there things we could do like flashing signs that say during peak hours there is congestion ahead to try to get people to slow down and raise awareness of what we're doing? Because this is a lot of money to spend on the fringe of the community. I'm not saying that there's not traffic safety issues there, but are there other things we could do where we could shift some of those dollars into more high priority areas?
And we also did talk about the possibility of the access road from the soccer complexes.
That has been discussed, Mayor, is correct. That one of the other issues that was just brought up is people right now are kind of bypassing the intersection in a couple different ways. We had a township road supervisor come. I think Mr. Reynolds is out here right now. I'm sorry, I think I butchered your title, Phil. All right, but there are people now that will go around that intersection and utilize township roads. There's another one, as the mayor pointed out, on the south leg. There's a cut through where people can cut through to bypass some of that. I hate to say that publicly because now everybody will do it, but we'd like to try to eliminate if possible, because trying to make a left turn out of that can be a safety issue. You know, and so that's one of the things that we had talked about trying to resolve as a city.
Alderwoman Hellman and then Bray.
Thank you. And you brought up Mr. Reynolds. I was going to mention that he was here a couple weeks ago. I've heard from residents yes and no, and obviously since the Grove is in Ward 8, you know where the yeses are coming from, and that's fair. And I will certainly support sending it back to the Transportation Commission. I mean, we've got so many needs, and then we're talking about almost $1 million to start the Brick Street repaving, and it's like, we're not buying lottery tickets, so we're not going to win the lottery to be able to fund a lot of these things. So I have concerns, and I know that the comp plan said infill, but the council before us approved the Grove based on a previous comp plan, and we can't roll back and say, okay, Grove people, you just have to go away now because we're not going to support you. I mean, they've been waiting 15 years for a park that the developer promised to them. I think if I were living out there, I would probably feel like the ugly stepchild, because we really just kind of ignore them and hope they'll go away, and they're not. They've invested money in their homes, and whether it's on the east side of Towanda Barnes or the west side of Towanda Barnes, they're residents of the city of Bloomington. We need to somehow take care of them.
Alderwoman Bray.
So thank you, Jim, for this, and I also wanted to acknowledge that we've heard on this topic previously in regards to the safety issues and the traffic jams that are occurring. When we look at installing an intersection, to me, and we talk about public safety and we talk about our roads, this is infrastructure. I mean, this is the priority. And while I enjoy hearing about the brick streets, I can't get away from $1 million a year for brick streets for 1 or 2 blocks versus adding infrastructure that's so necessary to Bloomington. It's all Bloomington. And so we need to take a holistic approach, in my view, about a level of service and infrastructure that starts with public safety and good traffic flow and servicing areas where we have schools and keeping people safe. So if we need to do things to slow down the speed limit through there, perhaps that's something we need to do. But I look forward to, I would be supportive of sending this back, but at the same time, I don't see this as some kind of a luxury non-need when again, we've heard time and again from our citizens that they prioritize infrastructure, and this is it. So thank you.
Alderman Rwamboy.
Okay, thank you. Jim, I'm looking at Alderwoman Schmidt's proposal to send it back to the Transportation Committee, and I want to be sure in terms of timelines, what does this do to the ultimate timeline for the project? Because one of the things that would be important to me, we have an agreement with the county, right? So I think it would be important to me that we respect the agreement regardless of what option we choose down the line. So I wanted you to address that for me a little bit. And I also want to echo what Alderwoman Bray said in terms of infrastructure and safety, because looking at the crash data, you said we had 1 fatality, right?
There was.
So, and I'm also looking at the worst case scenario. If this happened to be a school bus, we would have a different conversation. I think it would involve a lot more people, so that's something we need to keep in mind as well.
Alderman Malonboy, so to answer your question, we did, actually there was a joint intergovernmental meeting today. We were able to talk a little bit with Chairman McIntyre, the mayor. They were supportive of of allowing some additional vetting of this, and so there was some discussion on that. So that's a positive thing. From a project perspective, we've discussed with the county engineer. We're still able to, it's not a definitive, if it's not tonight, this isn't one of those to where if it's not tonight, it won't happen. That's not one of those conversations. And that's the way we committed to the last time we met, that this allows for the discussion that needs to happen, so as a community we can make sure that all the decisions are working together. So it's a great point, though.
Okay. Alderman Black.
Thank you. I have a question about the motion that's been made. So if this were to pass and it gets sent back to the Transportation Commission, what their charge would be to review and make a recommendation on what's presented, or to come up with alternatives to what's been presented?
Yes.
All right.
Both.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
What does that do to the county's timeline? I don't want to vote on something without thinking about our governmental partners.
Thank you. As long as, we would add that to the next agenda. This is a council direction. It would be added to the November Transportation Commission agenda for discussion. And as they would know about this, our traffic engineer, Phil Allen, would send this out so they have some advanced preparation, discussion can happen, and we would ask for them to take some action on it so we can bring that back to the council for some additional discussion in the next 30 to 60 to 90 days. City Manager, would you like to weigh in on that?
Yeah, I think as soon as that Transportation Committee makes a recommendation, we'll bring it right back to the council for your action.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
All right.
Mayor, if I could I just I'd like to suggest, going back to this question, what should the Transportation Committee look at? I think two other pieces of information would be very helpful. One is to have them receive a copy of the engineering report that was done. I think that might be good for them to at least begin to understand what does that kind of report look at. What was the safety issues that came into play with the recommendations? But secondly, and I think this is important too, I think it'd be helpful for that Transportation Committee to look at other City of Bloomington intersections and show the comparative crash data on an annual basis, because when you look at a 5-year period, you're looking at about 7 crashes per year, and I think, Jim, you mentioned, in the City of Bloomington, probably the top 10 would exceed this, and I think it would be helpful from a safety standpoint, because I agree with Alderman Bray. You want to look at where are the greatest safety needs from an intersection deficiency. And I think it would be helpful for the Transportation Committee to compare this intersection with other intersections, with a high level of crash data, because that's going to also help that committee begin to put it in context. Is if we fund this, what are we not funding that might even have a greater safety need? So I think that would be helpful, and we put together those annual statistics each year on all the intersections we're tracking, and I would just offer that. I think that's important for that committee to review that, so then if they come back, they can say, which intersections, including this one, really do need some funding, and how does this one relate to other Bloomington intersections with a high volume of crash or high number of crashes per year.
Okay. Thanks. Well, actually, we are very quick because we're like double time.
I would also recommend including the Transportation Committee minutes from the county that you provided us. That would be very helpful, I think, in enlightening.
Great. That's a great idea. Thank you very much. Okay,
Mayor,
at this point, we are going to go ahead and vote.
One more thing is I would like to see some information on what the additional ongoing maintenance costs of doubling the size of that intersection would be too, because I think that's an important part to consider as well.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, at this point, we're having a motion to return to, send this back to, not back because it didn't get to transportation, send it to the Transportation Committee for further analysis of all of the things that have just been suggested. Okay? If you'll go ahead and vote aye or nay, please. The motion carries 8-0. There are no nays to announce, Madam Clerk, and we move on to the next item. Thank you. If you get Alderwoman Burgess. Next, we have item 8B, and that's consideration of an ordinance providing the city to petition to annex certain properties located in the city into the Bloomington Normal Water Reclamation District. And again, we have I'm going to start holding people to time a little bit more tightly here because we're going well over. We have 5 minutes for presentation and 10-minute council discussion. Thank you.
Good evening. Staff is recommending that council pass this ordinance allowing for the city to petition to annex certain city-owned properties known as Ewing Parks 1 and 2 into the Bloomington Normal Water Reclamation District, known as BNWRD. These properties receive BNWRD sanitary sewer services, and the district, by state law and its own ordinance, is prohibited from providing sanitary sewer services to property that's outside of its boundaries. So this would resolve this issue and allow for those properties to continue to receive services. Additionally, we're seeking to petition with other property owners, to allow other property owners to petition along with us. That includes Ewing Manor and some property owners along Sunset Road. Again, we think that sanitary sewer services, obviously are important, and we want to continue to receive them. And this resolves a record issue because there is no record of these properties being in the BNWRD boundaries. It's a rather simple concept, so I'll leave the rest of my time for any questions you have.
Question? Wow, way under budget. Questions of Mr. Boyle. Alderwoman Painter.
I just want to say thank you. This is in my ward, and this has been long overdue. Thanks a lot.
Great. Okay, so is that a motion?
Yes.
A motion by Alderwoman Painter. Is there a second to that motion? Second by Alderwoman Schmidt. Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, if you go ahead and vote. Ayes in favor, obviously nays opposed. Motion carries 9-0. We are on a roll of 9-0s, or at least unanimous votes tonight. Okay, thank you very much. And we move right along to item 8C. And this is an ordinance, a consideration of an ordinance amending the city code to rename planning and code enforcement to community development and to change the location for filing applications from the community development department instead of the city clerk's office. And we have a brief 5-minute presentation and then 10-minute council discussion.
Thank you very much, Mayor. This one has been long overdue. As you know, we've been calling the PACE Department the PACE Department, even though Tom Daberreiner was his whole time he was here, he was the director of the Department of Community Development. And so we finally have got that one before you, and I'm going to ask our city planner, Katie Simpson, to answer your questions about that. Thank you.
Good evening. This is pretty straightforward, changing the name from PACE to Community Development, and then also bringing the land use applications into the Community Development Department instead of the clerk's office. So, if you have questions.
I'd like to move that we adopt the ordinance amending the city code to rename Planning and Code Enforcement as the Community Development Department.
I'll second.
Is there any further discussion? Mayor's going to come back and we're going to be on a completely different topic here. Let's see. I'm trying to remember how to do this. All right. There are no nays to announce. And we'll move to item 8D. Is that where we are?
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Yeah, apparently I am. So, yes, would you please take it away?
Yes, again, my presentation will be very short. This is a continuation of the discussion of the expense reimbursement policy and procedures. There were a few minor changes that were made, all outlined in the council memo. I'd be happy to answer any questions about this further.
This is getting weird.
Wait, he might be back.
Alderman Sage.
I will just move that an ordinance amending the city code to adopt procedures on city council expenses and reimbursement be approved as presented.
Second.
That was quick. Okay. Boy, I can't even go down to the bathroom. Okay. And so, Alderman Sage, you've clarified. Okay.
So we've had a motion and a second.
Motion and second. Okay. Discussion. Alderwoman Bray.
No, I seconded the motion.
You second the motion. Okay. Anybody else? And I just want to say, in talking with City Manager Hales, one of the things that we did, this had been an aldermanic request, and then aldermanic requests can sometimes take 6 months to get on the agenda. That was the case certainly with the Metarazone situation. But this I thought was important for us to bring for a variety of reasons. The most important, I think, is to clarify that the city's procurement policy is very, very tight. It compares very favorably to other communities. Patty Lynn Silva runs a great shop, and there have been no abuses, regardless of media attention, to the P-card policy or what has happened. That is, we are very good stewards, and Patty Lynn Silva is a very good steward of the city's finances. To the most recent one, the idea of that a mayor is on leave. A mayor is never not the mayor. There are some times where, as I did, I took about 4 weeks. 2 of those weeks I was not in City Hall. That doesn't mean that you don't take phone calls, that you're not talking to people, that stuff that they maybe isn't going to happen in September, they want to happen in October or November or whatever. So you're always mayor, number one. Number two, the second 2 weeks we were talking, including meetings with the mayor pro tem and the city manager about ways to figure out, okay, you've really kind of been out of City Hall for a couple of weeks. Now we're going to, ease back in and make sure we move forward with things. And it was actually Patty Lynn Silva who said, there's nothing, I realize when you met with Alderman Black and then many other people, you're meeting constantly with whether or not there are people of boards, commissions, or chairs, or prospective candidates, or are people who are intergovernmental partners. I mean, the list goes on and on. And so when you're meeting with people, it's very important. And she's the one who said, why don't you just for appearance's sake, so that you don't have anything, so there's not a bad story. Well, obviously, that didn't work, but that's one of the things that she suggested was to go ahead and just reimburse the city. So the bottom line is, when you have a mayor who's not really part-time, but in theory part-time, who has to have another gig, mostly when you're meeting with people, it's going to be before working hours, or it's going to be at lunchtime, or it's going to be after working hours, unless you call. I mean, you're on the phone constantly having to return phone calls. But if you want a deep dive, it's not going to happen during regular working hours. So I just want to make that part clear, but to make more than anything clear, this council, this city manager, the finance director have done an excellent job of making sure that money is spent appropriately and that tax dollars are. We require receipts, whether there's a P card or not a P card. And so with that, I will leave it open to other discussion or comments. Seeing none, let me clear those, all right? Obviously, aye is in favor, nay is opposed. Motion carries 9-0. There are no nays to announce, Madam Clerk. We move right along to, item E, and that's discussion on an ordinance of the city code to clarify provisions on public comment. And we have a brief presentation by Mr. Juergens and a 10-minute discussion by the council.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is a brief amendment to our public comment rules. From time to time, we will get requests or individuals who want to use the city equipment when they're addressing the council during public comment. We have interpreted that to be as something that's not permitted, but we wanted to have a clear provision in the city code to address that, primarily so that somebody doesn't
whether it's maliciously or not, infect one of our computers or do something to the equipment. We also have issues where if everybody wanted to do a PowerPoint, the time it takes to get all that up and running, and really public comment by law is a time to address the council members. So, this is in line with keeping that as a time to address the council members. We do have lots of provisions in our rules to where if somebody wants to present you with documents or they want to provide written public comment, we have procedures to do that. So we're not discouraging people to provide you with documents or to provide you with presentations. It's just that needs to be in a written format and can be done that way. The other minor change is we no longer use the City Council at City BLM email address to be able to communicate with all of the council at once, and so we remove that provision from our rules. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions of Mr. Jervins? Alderman Mathey.
I'm sorry, I'm just curious why we removed that city council at City BLM. I missed that meeting or I wasn't available, but why did that change?
That was before your tenure on this council, and primarily to avoid inadvertently having any type of electronic meeting and violating any OMA provisions. We decided it was best to simply require not to have one easy method where you could just email everybody at the same time. That is something we could, revisit in the future. I see a few heads shaking no, but obviously we've tried hard to, any time that you're going to communicate with the entire council, we try to encourage people to put it all in the BCC lines, because it just becomes too easy for, if somebody sends something out to everybody, for somebody else to want to reply to it and answer it, and we really try to avoid any reply to all in that situation.
Okay, that's a great answer. I've been asked multiple times why that happened, and I didn't know what the answer was.
It is certainly a convenience to be able to just have one email address, but with that convenience comes the too easy to hit that reply all button.
May I add on to that?
Of course.
I also seem to remember that there was some concern from constituents that the city council email had the city manager. I can't remember.
That's
who
right.
all
There was
was
also some concern that wasn't just going to the city council, because there was some key staff on there as well.
Right. So it's an issue of
So
transparency.
So now you know exactly when you send your email who it's going to, and there's no confusion about that.
I will make a motion to approve this as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderwoman Painter. Any further discussion? Seeing none, you go ahead and vote. The motion carries 9-0. There are no nays to announce, Madam Clerk. And then we now move to the city manager's discussion. Mr. Hales, your last regular council meeting.
Just two quick items. One, I just want to express appreciation to Beth Oakley and many other members of the city manager's office for the preparation for our citizen volunteer reception held last week. I thought it went very well. It was well organized, and we had a very good turnout. The many citizens who give of their time and sacrifice to serve on the many different citizens committees and boards throughout the city. And the other thing just to share with you is with Tom DeBreiner's leaving, Steve Rasmussen will be serving as that interim community development director until such time as we either come up with a full-time replacement or secure some other interim community development director. We're still looking at those parallel tracks. Hopefully we can move quickly, but in case it looks like a longer process, we are looking at other options of potential contracting out for some of that service, which is critical because of some of the big projects. We have the comprehensive zoning update, et cetera. We have some great people in the department that'll step up. But just for everyone's understanding, Steve will be kind of wearing the two hats, assistant city manager, as well as interim community development director in the meantime. Just wanted to share those comments with you. Thank you very much.
Great. Well, actually, only two very brief things. The most brief is but important, is certainly again to thank Nora, Beth, yourself, others for making it possible for us to have a thank you to everyone who steps up to the plate and actually does a lot of the hard work that really helps not just the city, but the city council, the mayor, the manager, and staff. And so we want to thank you all for putting that on. And then, Mr. Hales, where do we even start? A standing ovation. Thank you for everything. We certainly wish you the best of luck as you move to Joliet. And there may be from time to time, you may not want to return our phone calls, but there may be times where we do want to chat with you about some things. But we certainly thank you and appreciate your dedication to the city and the time you've been here. And there will be, I was told not to specify time because that is yet to be determined, but there will be a going away party on November 7th for Mr. David Hales, who has served us since early 2009. That's all I have. Aldermanic comments. And then we do actually have executive session. Excuse me. Just for everyone, we do have an executive session after this, just FYI. And so at this point, aldermanic comments, and we're going to start with Alderwoman Howman. I do aldermanic. I haven't messed things up. I do aldermanic comments before the executive session. Okay. Everybody's looking at me like I was crazy, which is not unusual. But
you said you were going to start with me, and I'm looking around the room to see who else has. Oh, Maboka.
Alderman Howman, and then Maboka.
Yeah, okay. Over the past several weeks, the members of our city council have been asked by many members of our community to address the negative actions and statements from Mayor Renner. The majority of council members have chosen to write a formal letter to Mayor Renner that states our concerns and reaffirms our expectations. We are delivering the letter to him this evening. The council members who have signed this letter have asked that I announce this action on our behalf. All members of the council were given the opportunity to sign this letter. A copy of our letter is being shared with the media. We believe the letter speaks for itself, and we will not discuss this further. Instead, we will put our energy into assuring that Bloomington is the jewel of the Midwest. Signed by, in numerical order, Jamie Mappy, David Sage, Maboka Milawambwe, Johnny Painter, Karen Schmidt, and myself.
Okay, thank you. The only thing I would say is that it'd be nice to have had a little bit of time to even just have a brief response. And to say, I'm sure there are things that we agree on, and I'm sure there are things that we don't agree on, and thank you. At this point, any other questions? I'm sorry.
Well, I just wanted to add my voice to say thank you to City Manager Hales for, personally being very helpful to me, as a new alderman. A while back, though, but also continuing to be supportive, throughout my tenure. And I've enjoyed working with you, and there have been quite a few challenges for the city, as we all know. But I think in one way or another, we kind of managed to overcome those challenges together. So I want to say thank you, and I wish you the best of luck in Joliet. It's not too far. We'll come by and visit. Okay. Thank you.
Alderman Sage.
Yes. David, I'll look forward to it. I'll have some comments I want to share at our reception, but I want to say thank you as well. It has been a real pleasure for me to have had the opportunity to work with you these past 8 years or so. And I consider that to have been a good thing, a good part of having been an alderman. So thank you for your good work. I appreciate the integrity that you bring. I appreciate that you are candid with me about the things that anything I may come and talk with you about, things that I would like to do or think about doing or whatever. I appreciate that honest feedback you've always given to me and appreciated the way that you've always been quick to say, well, maybe I don't know that we can do this, but maybe here's some options, some other things that we can think about. So, I will miss having the opportunity to work with you and alongside you, and I, again, wish you all the best in this next career move that you make. So thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? At this point, we need to adjourn to an executive session, or do we just, Madam Clerk, I'm looking at you. So just a motion to adjourn to executive session at this point, and that has to be a roll call. Okay.
I will make a motion that we adjourn to executive session for the purpose of
Personnel specifically.
speaking of specific personnel issues.
Okay. That's moved by Alderwoman Schmidt. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderwoman Bray. And at this point, Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Alderman Matthey?
Yes.
Alderman Sage?
Yes.
Alderman Malumway?
Yes.
Alderman Burgess?
Yes.
Alderman Painter?
Yes.
Alderman Schmidt?
Yes.
Alderman Black?
Yes.
Alderman Harmon?
Yes.
And Alderman Bray.
Okay. We will... And no action after the closed session.
Mayor?